you covered a lot there. So let me back up real quick. One comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
NCOs are the backbone of the Air Force. That.
Oh yeah.
And you said it right there without saying it. Two is, what rank were you during your first shoot?
I was in A1C.
So
that's an
E3 for everybody,
folks.
Yeah,
that's a 20-year-old young man without a fully formed brain.
the level,
and just hucking 105.
This is what I wanted to kind of highlight, and you bring it up, and we talked about this yesterday, and I forget what we recorded an episode yesterday. I think it was why choose aspect war, right? And we're talking about how the Air Force, you have the Army and the Navy, they promote faster, especially the Army, they promote faster. ODAs are hysterically E7 in 7 years, 7 and 7. Whereas it is not unusual for aspect war or the Air Force to put an E2, E3, E4 in charge of some serious shit. There you are, your very first deployment on an AC-130, about to take some people's lives supporting high level operations as an E3. Like that's, I gotta highlight that because people don't realize what we levy onto our young airmen and expect them to do and perform. And you're operating an 8, your crew, and I tell you what, the guys on the ground needed you to be at a 4, right? Just like you needed that airman that you were training, that you were mentoring, to be at a 4, because we need you to be able to competently react and perform under pressure, because we never know when you're going to get put into that kind of situation. So I felt that it was important to highlight and shout out to Aaron, because Aaron hit me on the side and was like, dude, you got to go into that. So right on.
You don't tell people that, Peaches. You look good. That's my job. That's what you're supposed to do.
I'm here to make you guys
giving away all the podcast secrets.
I know. Yeah, right. It's something that we hit on yesterday, and it's something that we have, the more that we talk kind of amongst the three of us when we're doing show prep, when we're talking to people, it's this thing that we've tried to really start messaging to people, is that we in the Air Force, unlike all the other services, we're going to put you in that position. You had 0 hours in Afghanistan. You were barely out of tech school. You didn't even feel like you were a good gunner. And still there was somebody that was willing to look at you and be like, listen, I need you to do this. I'm going to put you in this situation. And I think people gloss over that. When they're in their development programs, no matter what job it is that they're getting in the Air Force, they're like, I'm going to do this down the road. I'm going to do this when I get trained. I'm going to do this when I get there. No, you're going to do it way before you think you're ready. You're going to do it way before you think you're competent. And you're going to do it under the watchful eye of a subject matter expert that really hasn't been doing it for that long. That guy that walked you through your very first, shoot event, he probably was doing it for less than 10 years. He was not some Jedi master that was 100 deployments. He had a handful of deployments. I remember on my first deployment, I was lucky enough to have, a PJ with me that had deployed before, but he had 1-2 month deployment 5 months before that. He hit a short rotation, came off that rotation, and then he deployed with me. And that was the guy that I was clipped into the entire time. I was like, I'm learning everything about being a PJ from you. But we put these kids, and I'll say kids because they are, but we put these 18, 19, 20-year-old airmen into sometimes impossible situations. And we're like, it's okay if you don't do great, but it's a pass fail, and you passed. And that's just a testament to what it is that we do in the Air Force. And I'm sure that shapes how you look at recruits. That experience when and we'll get into the recruiting piece here in a second, but I'm sure that changes how you look at applicants and how you put them in jobs that you think that, that you see the potential for success.
So kind of on that note, circling all the way back to mentors and people around me that helped me get through it and whatnot, spinning up for that first deployment, because I had been just, as the kids would say, dog water through the pipeline. One of my instructors, I was out because I was 20. Yeah, I actually failed a flight on my 21st birthday. So I was 21 before I deployed. So I was out drinking, and one of the schoolhouse instructors was out at the bar. And him and I, now I'm not a student anymore, so I can hang out with him, whatnot. We were drinking together, and we ended up going back to his place and just kind of hanging out. talking, and I was asking him like, hey man, I'm getting ready to go on this deployment. And I started freaking out. I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm ready. Like, I don't know if I'm like ready to go do this. And he looked me dead in the face and he was like, I wouldn't have let you out of the schoolhouse if I didn't think you were ready to deploy with my guys. Right. All those dudes in the op unit, those are my dudes. Right. Just because I'm at the schoolhouse doesn't mean I'm detached from that. He was like, so if you weren't ready, you would not be in the unit flying with my dudes. So, like that gave me a lot of solace as well. That kind of grounded me because I was like, man, I was freaking out. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ready to do this. Like these guys are all, 3, 4, 5 deployments deep. Like I said, the two of the gunners on my crew had 9 and 10 deployments respectively. So I was like, man, I'm first dude, first trip dude. But yeah, that really grounded me. And I had those people around me so that when we talk about putting these 18, 19-year-old kids in those positions, like you're not going to be in that position if we didn't think that you're ready. Whether that's medical, cyber, gunships, CCTs, PJs, right? Like you're not going to get there if we don't think you're ready.
No, and that translate across all of them. It doesn't matter the career field. Well, maybe it kind of does, just in the way that not everybody. I'd say it translates across all the combat related, because it is people's lives that your own community, other communities, you have to make sure that somebody is ready to go. So, before we move on to recruiting, is there any last things you want to hit on gunships? I gotta say, and I've said it many times on here, but I've got a lot of ground time with some AC-130s. Thanks to 911 and GWAT, stuff like that. So shout out to all the gunships communities out there, and you guys have saved my life. Not just the ALSOC gunship community, but also the combat air force in terms of A-10s, F-16s, and so on and so on. So thanks for what you guys do and will continue to do out there.
No, I did 9 deployments, so I've got, stories
I'm sure
we could talk all day about combat deployments and, stuff that goes on in the aircraft. But like, I don't know, man, just gunships in general, it's the best place to be. I think it's the best plane in the sky. I don't think anyone rivals us when it comes to CAS. Other planes try, but we do, and just, I've got so much love for that community and so much love for my dudes that are still out there doing the deal. And a quick story about like kind of what guides me as far as my love for gunships, and then I think applies to you guys as well. That first deployment, I was very fangs out, got my first kill, my first flight. I was out there. I was ready. I was like, dude, let's shoot everything that moves. And we took off on a mission one time and we get out overhead and the JTAC comes up. Jag dude comes up on comms and he's like, hey, I'm going to be off comms. Zombies got comms. I'm going to, bed down for a minute. And I was like, what? The JTAC's going to sleep? I was like, why are we here? I was like, this is stupid. Like, I could be back in my dorm room, doing whatever, looking at Instagram. And that 10-trip gunner, man, I'll never forget, he snagged me up by my collar. And he was like, you're going to shut up and you're going to do the job. Because if that dude who's been in a firefight for 72 hours needs to get some sleep, maybe he gets to heat up an MRE and eat some hot food, you're going to fly for 12 hours so that guy can do that. And I just remember being like, man, get off me. Like, this is stupid. I want to be back in my dorm. And it wasn't until later that I started meeting some of the operators, some of the JTACs and stuff like that, that I really realized, like, what we do as gunships is that so that you guys can go home. Mm-hmm. The 16th SOS, when I transitioned to AC-130 Whiskies, our commander, we got away from that. Like, our job is to kill people, and our motto was always to protect. So I started preaching that to my dudes. Like, look, dude, man, like, your job, is to work these guns. But any day that we don't shoot, that's a good day, right? Because that means our dudes on the ground are not getting shot at, right? Their lives are not in danger. So that mission, like, I've met a lot of JTACs, follow them on Instagram, stuff like that I've shot for and whatnot. And I get to see pictures of their kids growing up. I get to see pictures of them going off being instructors, doing whatever, having these successful careers. So it's like, yeah, all the glory of, you know, whatever we did in battle and stuff of that sort is cool, but like that's the real prize, right? Getting to see you guys still kicking it, still having a good day, and, you know, having a little piece in that. And that's what gunships are about, man. And that's what I really, really loved about the community.
Yeah, that is a legit thing in terms of the sleeping. I know I've had AC-130s overhead while I sleep, while I catch some Z's. I've had some remotely piloted aircraft, some NQ-9s, just kind of, and I've had some B-1s, which are very loud aircraft to have just kind of hanging out, and a very expensive aircraft to have hanging out. But, you know, when you're going on 36 hours of fighting and haven't slept, it's like, and I recognized in myself as I'm generating 9 lines and that kind of stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm not writing these well enough, and now I'm starting to second guess. And last thing I want to do is drop. I remember dropping 4 GBU-31s, which are 2,000-pound bombs, because we were surrounded, and so I had basically 4, you know, north, south, east, west, and 3 went off, 1 didn't. But as they're falling, I could hear them whistling, and it was just like, oh boy, here we go. And everybody starts ducking behind the vehicle, and I'm like, dude, it's 2,000 pounds. There's 4 of them. There's no point in doing that. You know, if I messed up, we're done. So,
right.
Like you really are, and it's a numbers, right? That's all it is numbers. Yeah, there's checks and balances within a 9 line. It's inherent to a 9 line. There's checks and balances, there's correlation and all that kind of stuff. But this is also, you know, earlier before some of these planes had targeting pods. So, you know, you're still doing, like for B1s, we were doing stuff off of radar. So, you know, there's some challenges. And when you start talking about, you know, the fog of war or lack of sleep, and it can get really, really ugly and really, really dangerous pretty fast. And that whole sleep thing is a real thing.
And yeah, like I said, being just a young dude, not really understanding any of that, because like I didn't know any controllers or anything. But because at that time, to me, a controller is just a voice and a headset. But when you start meeting these dudes, and I look back on that, and I think about, you know, like this is my buddy, right? This is my dude. Like, you know, I have a lot of controller buddies, some still in, some that are out, but it's like this dude, yeah, he's been in a firefight for 3 days, right? If this dude needs to kick his boots off and get a 20-minute power nap,
that's all it takes.
Like, I'll fly 14 hours now. Like I'll extend my crew duty day, like, to give you guys that opportunity. And the fact that the gunship just being overhead is enough for, you know, the shitheads to go away. Like, that's your job, dude. Go out there and do it. And I don't want to hear any complaining, because kind of the same story with my first shoot. I had that same experience down the road where a kid was like, whoa, why are we doing this mission? I was like, you're going to shut up and you're going to do it, dude. I was like, because
I hope there was a knife hand in there.
There was, yeah, a very firm knife hand.
There was a big lead gun standing over this kid as he was reading the cough, and I was like, you're going to shut up and you're going to fly. Like,
listen here, Turbo.
Oh, yeah. Were you some kind of weatherman?
So how do you know what kind of day it is?